Hey there. My name is Jonathan Page. I am one of the pastors at Herndon United Methodist Church, and I want to thank you for joining in on this end of the year recap video from our Healthy Church team. In just a couple of moments, you're going to be able to see a conversation that our Healthy Church team had at our last meeting of 2020, where we go through kind of what it's been like to be a part of this team and what is ahead in 2021. As we prepare to watch this together, I want to let you know a couple of things just that might be helpful pieces of information before you watch this video. Our Healthy Church team is comprised of a group of people that are mandated to come together by our Virginia Annual Conference. This team is, the mandate from the conference requires that this team have 4 different people that are a part of it, and we have a couple more than that, but the 4 people that have to be a part of it are a member of our church trustees, and the trustees are a group of people that help to do building maintenance and coordinate facility use. We have to have a member of our hospitality or greeter team. That's the group that helps to make sure that folks are welcomed in the life of the church. We're required to have somebody with a legal background, so a lawyer or somebody familiar with law, and a medical expert, so either a doctor or nurse or somebody from that capacity. And so our team has all of those folks and an additional few folks that are kind of like at-large folks that can help us to guide our decision making. And so you're going to hear this conversation. And one of the things I want to make sure that you know before we engage the conversation is just a little bit of kind of how our church is structured. So we're a local church at Herndon, but we are a United Methodist Church. And as a part of the United Methodist Church, we are a part of the Virginia Annual Conference. So the Virginia Annual Conference covers most of the state of Virginia, and there are over 1,100 local churches that are a part of the Virginia Annual Conference. And those are all governed by a person who's called a bishop, and our bishop is named Sharma Lewis. But the bishop, keeping in mind having to oversee 1,100 churches would be an awful lot of work and probably too much for one person. So we divide the Virginia Annual Conference into districts. Right now we have 15 districts in the Virginia Annual Conference. We just actually consolidated one of those, the Winchester district, which isn't too far from us, molded into our district and a couple others. But we are a part of the Arlington district. And those districts typically are the boundaries of those are geographic in nature. And so every district has a district superintendent. And that person is kind of a representative of the bishop who helps local churches to be able to put into practice policy and that sort of thing from the larger annual conference. Our district superintendent is named Sarah Calvert, and both she and the bishop are wonderful people and awesome collaborators in this whole process. So you're going to hear that mentioned a couple times. I want to make sure you understand who those people are and what the sort of structure of the church is. So with all of that in mind, I won't delay any further. I want to invite you to check this video out. It's about 30 minutes long, but I think it's going to really enhance our understanding of what's going on with the Healthy Church team and what we can be looking forward to in 2021. So thank you for watching today, and thank you to our Healthy Church team for just being an awesome team of people who are able to come together to be the light and love of Christ for our church in this time. Enjoy this video. Well, it's good to be here with our Healthy Church team today. We this team of folks were absent. A couple today. Stan and Marcia Stewart aren't with us, but the rest of the team's here, and this team gathers every other week at 8 a.m. on Sunday mornings to talk about our church and talk about what it means for us to be healthy together and to envision what we need to be doing to keep our congregation as safe as possible. And so I want to thank all of the Healthy Church team folks for being on today. And I'm curious, as we're going to be sharing this video with our whole community in the next few days or so, I'm curious what it's been like for you to be a part of the Healthy Church team over the last few months. I think we started convening, it's been 8 or 9 months ago, and so I'm curious, what's it been like to be a part of the Healthy Church team? Maybe Aramis, would you tell us for you, what has it been like?
It's been very challenging, I could tell you that. A lot of reading, a lot of information from the conference, and we had to discern and interpret and try to apply it to the situation in Herndon United Methodist Church.
I think that's helpful, Aramis. And I'm curious, especially because you're part of this team, is our trustee representatives or our healthy church teams required to have a trustee on it. Has it impacted anything for you as far as your work alongside our church trustees?
Definite. As we meet as trustees, we have to uh, look ahead. How can we prepare the church in a way that meet the guidelines and things like that? Uh, we have to purchase equipment, signs, uh, stations for the dispensing chemicals that will help clean the church, which ones we should be using, which ones are not acceptable because it can damage other things. So doing some of that research and things like that, are we going touchless faucets, or how we're going to handle opening and closing of doors? All that had been discussed through the trustees, and information that we had to apply uh, to try to make sure that the church is ready when the times come.
Picking up on what Aramis said, though it's challenging, what I found is it's been very heartening in that there really has been, as you go through information and consider various opinions, at the end of the day, there's been incredible consensus, not only with regard to the church team itself, but I think you can sense the cooperation of the wider community, whether it be compliance with the guidelines we put out for outdoor activities or whatever. There's really still been that sense of community consensus and cooperation throughout, and I found that to be somewhat satisfying and not what I took for granted back in March. Yeah.
That's helpful, Cliff. I'm kind of curious, Cliff. You know, you're so active with our Saturday night community when we're together in person. How with Healthy Church, how has that helped to you know, I can't imagine. I'm sure you're like me, and you miss everyone. You want to see everybody in person. How has maybe this work helped to contextualize that sort of longing to see folks and kind of what you're normally involved with in the life of the church?
Right. Well, one thing that I did, I think that everyone here, understanding the same way the whole congregation, there is this sense of loss by not being able to stick to the ordinary time in the sanctuary and so forth. So for months afterwards, I actually would go from Leesburg to the church about the same time every Saturday. Never used my key to go inside, but just because you need that sense of centering and continuity. And so there are still different ways different people use, but that loss of being there every Saturday night with the group of people that are there is really palpable, and everyone feels it, and everyone on this team feels it. So we're not in some silo. It affects us all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Cliff. I'm curious, Dr. Thompson, Dr. Jen Thompson, you're a medical expert. What is kind of from a medical perspective, what has it been like to be a part of this team over the last several months?
Well, obviously, I have my own perspective from a medical standpoint, but I will say this committee has also been educational, because when you're attending church, you aren't as in tune with all the behind the scenes things that go on to make the for church function. And those are things we've had to take into consideration in trying to think, how can we do at least what we can? We have to think not only of the medical perspective, but things specific to our church, the size of the classrooms, the flow of traffic, the facilities and the restrooms, the air conditioning system, the ventilation, the trustees' standpoint of all those things, as Aramis mentioned. And the guidance from the conference with best practices. So there's a lot of moving parts that aren't necessarily something one would think of, who's going to record sessions, who's going to the instruments, the singing, what are the transmission points of virus in all these specific situations. There's a lot of moving parts to put together there in coming up. But I'm also impressed with the creativity of people working on this. Things that have been able to be accomplished safely, the drive-through, the recording of things, the Halloween, fall festival we had. There's a lot of good ideas out there to keep as connected as we can safely, even though we can't gather together. But there's going to be a lot going forward to make sure we can do that safely, considering our area and our facility and our congregation's needs.
Thank you so much, Dr. Thompson. I'm curious, Bill Odio is our one of our legal go-to folks, and I think also kind of our spiritual center in a lot of ways on our team. Bill, what's this experience been like for you?
It's been a learning experience. The word discernment comes to mind. How to balance our command to love our neighbor, our bent on a Christian hospitality, how to balance that with the learning that we're doing regarding aerosol transmission of this virus. On the one hand, we want to welcome people. We want to encourage the choir to sing and to share the joy with us, with the congregation. And on the other hand, we have to put the foot on the pedal, on the brakes, and say, well, that's not what we are here for. We need to discern the best way to proceed. And sometimes it's painful to say no to people who are requesting our approval, whether it be from the preschool or from the choir. And again, our tendency towards being welcoming and towards Christian hospitality clashes with what we are learning regarding this virus. And so it's a challenge to discern the best way to proceed.
I think that's very, very wise. And one thing that I would say I've been encouraged by, building on what you just said, Bill, is that with whether it's music ministry, preschool, I'm thinking about our scouting ministry, some of our small groups and youth ministry, like some of the different folks that have been really actively engaged in this conversation about how can we have gatherings and be safe, is that we're always intent on doing that together, right? It's never, this team comes in and is sort of like an overlord saying, you shall not pass, or you shall do this kind of thing. But we really it's been impressive to me. I heard earlier the word consensus, and really that sense and that understanding that we don't want to be this sort of separate kind of ivory tower kind of team that just is going to decide things apart from our community, but that we want to gather together with, digitally, of course, and make decisions as collaboratively as possible. I think that's very true. I want to also ask, Pastor Floor is with us. Pastor Floor has been a part of this team, not the whole time because she hasn't been with us the whole time, but she's been her entire time at Herndon's been digital. Floor, what is this Healthy Church process been like for you?
It has been an eye-opener to gather every other week and learn from the different perspectives that all of you bring. And also attending the 3:00 Thursday afternoon with the DS and learning the latest changes or the latest news on COVID and how the conference approach is, or what they're doing. So it has been a blessing. Also, I agree with all of you. It's been difficult. I have always said since the very beginning of the pandemic back in March, one infection, one person getting sick is way too many. We don't want anyone to be sick, especially our church friends. I mean, we are family, and so our job as spiritual leaders, which we all are, is to care for one another, love God, love neighbor as you love yourself. And so caring for the community has been challenging, but it has been very rewarding. I know we cannot open the church so we can pray in it, but we can still pray. So finding new ways, like Dr. Jen said, finding new ways of being in community, and just serving God has been amazing. To see the creativity of so many people, and the creativity that has been shared has been also amazing. We gather in different groups, different meetings, and we come up with something new. And that is, I see as the Holy Spirit working through each one of us. But I think the eye opener has been one, the love, right, that we have for God and for each other, and also attending these meetings that are so informative, and then learning to say no to the ones we love, because we have had many requests, and the HCT team has had the hard task to say no to them because we care and we love them. So it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing to learn as we go. I know that a good leader will lead in times of struggle when there's not a pathway to lead yet. The leader will open up the pathway for others to follow. So it has been that the HCT has been opening that pathway for our church community so they can go through it. So in this journey that has been very, very difficult for so many, for all of us.
Thank you so much, Flor. So we kind of talked about where we've been, right? And kind of what this experience has been like. And so right now we're recording this right before Christmas. It might air right after Christmas, but we are, certainly anticipating a lot as well in this season about what is to come. And so I'm curious for folks on this team, kind of, what are you looking forward to in 2021? What are your hopes and aspirations, especially as it relates to our church and kind of how we would be a healthy church together? And I was kind of pointing questions before, so let me start with Bill. Would you be willing to lead us off with kind of what your hopes and aspirations would be for 2021 as it relates to our church community?
Yes, I think that as a team, we need to explore the best ways to communicate to the congregation what we know about how the virus is transmitted through aerosol transmission, and how to prepare ourselves joyfully to consider taking the vaccination for the COVID-19 virus. I know that some people may have reservations, but we need to explore that. It's a process of education, just as it is with taking the flu shot. We need to strengthen our faith as we go into 2021, knowing that, as Dr. Fauci has said, we are going to go through some tough times in the winter months with what he calls a surge upon a surge. And we need to keep our faith and joyfully prepare to take the vaccination as it becomes available.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Picking up on what Bill said, it is a road ahead, a difficult road we're immediately facing. But if we look a little bit farther down that road, what I'm thinking and trying to focus on is there's a pent up demand for everyone to be back together. And we may be able to capitalize on that so that when we do come back, the church will be stronger, not only for those already in the congregation, but the wider community, which has felt this loss of the inability to be together. So there may be an opportunity in here for the farther down the road. And certainly what you, Jonathan, and Floor and volunteers and staff have done with the IT capabilities. Now, I'm an IT illiterate, so I've been amazed at what's been done. And if we can continue to use that and build on that together with other opportunities, I'm pretty optimistic. So I look forward to getting back to the ballpark and getting back to the church, not necessarily in that order, but getting back to both before 2021 is over.
Well, Cliff, we're kind of far from Truist Park, where I know you'd really want to be, where the Atlanta Braves play, right? But
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that, and I think so much of what you just said, Cliff, is important. That in this season, our church has launched a new vision, right? Like we've got these new ways of doing church, and so much of what my hope is, I hear what you're saying, that we don't need to just say, okay, well, we did these things for a time and now we're just going to go back to what was. It's how do we embrace that sort of hybrid way of doing things moving forward? And I think that's a real opportunity before us, and that's really smart. Let me ask Dr. Thompson. Yeah.
Oh, well, I was going to say for 2021, of course, I'm thrilled and excited about the vaccine. That's the huge news. And as Bill said, I hope our community will embrace getting vaccinated. For my own part, I am signed up to get the vaccine December 26th. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is on that. But I will say, I'm a healthcare worker, and thankfully I have access, but there'll be people who have trouble getting it. And we know that there are logistical distribution obstacles that the states will face. And it's, hopefully we're turning a corner, but I just know we have to urge patience as well and staying the course. And even with the vaccine, we don't know, is this going to be a long-term protection? Is this going to be a yearly booster? We're still going to have to do the good practices that we've been doing. And it's going to be months before we know what the effect of the vaccine and the community positivity rate is. And in the meantime, we have to bear patience and caution and continue our best practices that we've been doing. It's an exciting time, and we're all thrilled to feel like we're turning the corner, but we're still in an uphill battle for a while yet.
It's really interesting to talk about 2021, but we also need, from the trustees' perspective, we need to think about how ready the building is going to be. And that's one of the things that trustees are working in conjunction with this group, where we're going, the maintenance of the building. There are certain things that we have to continue to do to make sure that the building is still safe, clean, is in good working condition. We're meeting with HVAC contractors and talking about how we can influence the filtration of the building. What are the things that we need to look? What can we do without affecting the existing equipment and so on? So making sure that the toilets and sinks are not dry rot. So continue to flush water through the system and things like that, to make sure that when we walk in, the building is ready for all of us. And so when I look at 2021, we don't know when that time is going to be. So we need to continue moving forward to make sure, if it's 2 months from now, 3 months from now, whenever, and the building needs to be ready. The lights needs to work. The air conditioning needs to work, either cold or heat need to work. The water needs to flow. The water fountains, what are we going to do with that? So all those things are in the mind of the trustees, and that's what we've been looking forward to as we move to 2021 to be ready.
Yeah, I think that's important, and I would give a major shout out to you and to our whole trustee team that we are when that time comes, there will be a few things that we have to get done, but it's not like we're going. There's been such a good job done in maintaining the building during this time that it's not like we're going to have to have an all hands on deck huge overhaul kind of thing. It's some bits and pieces. Pastor Floor, what do you think? What are you looking ahead to in 2021?
Absolutely. I have been part of a few of the trustees meetings, and that an eye opener, another one, and to see how the building needs to it needs maintenance, and maintenance means money. And so for 2021, my hope is that we will be able to come together eventually. But in the meantime, we know we have lost some revenue with our building being closed. And I don't think people realize that we need that revenue to continue moving forward every year. And so, yes, we're not in the building yet. We have to continue the utilities. They have to stay on, and the mission continues. Just because the building is closed, the mission is something that, I mean, we're missional, right? We are called to serve. And for 2021, I envision us continuing our digital gatherings, and yet being faithful givers, because we need to continue having the church available, and so we can prepare it for whenever we come back inside. I like to know, I love to know that our faith is so strong that we will continue to be faithful in our giving. And also, I think this time is our time to prepare ourselves spiritually as well, because there has been transformation during this time. And when you're transformed, you can't go back. You're transformed. There's no just a change. So as we continue this transformation and prepare our souls, ourselves, our hearts, our minds to go back, then what are we going to do in 2021 to be ready? To be ready as we move closer to being together again. And this could be, maybe in the spring, it could be in the summer, it could be in the fall. We don't know. No one knows. So I would exhort everyone to take this time to 2021 be a time of reflection, continue to be, because I know 2020 has been, and then moving forward with this transformation, how are we going to be welcoming everyone into the church, into the building? How are we gonna be more loving to the ones that we don't like? How can we seek self-forgiveness so we can learn to forgive the ones that, it's just all of this, just preparing our souls, preparing ourselves, our hearts, our minds to be back in a bigger way, and always leading in a spiritual way, because we are called to do that. So I am looking forward to 2021. I am looking forward to meeting everyone in person. I am looking forward to just continuing being the church, either in a digital way or an in-person way, because we are the church, and we will. I mean, nothing has stopped us. And that is such a testimony to give to the world.
I think that's great, Floor, and I appreciate. I always love to hear stories about stewardship. This has been a learning lesson for me. That so much, our communities continued to be incredibly generous throughout this time. We are likely by the end of the year going to have a small budget shortfall compared to our projected 2020 budget. And that what you spoke to is exactly right. It's not because people are giving less, it's because we can't have our building income that we normally would have that helps us to meet our budget, but because of the good work of our trustees and so many in our church, we're likely to still be in the black for the year, which is really good news. But that is a reminder for 2021 that there's so many different factors that go in go into kind of how we do community life together, and that stewardship certainly is an important part of that. I think for me, as I think about this, and kind of what am I hoping for 2021, I'm hoping that the trustees are going to really focus on the nursery to make sure that that's ready. But beyond that, I think so much of what we have seen in 2020 is sort of the embrace of possibility in the midst of hardship. And so, 2020 has been pretty awful in a lot of ways. I don't think any of us have wished to be in the place that we are. And yet we are here. And what I've observed in our church community at Herndon is that folks have been faithful in and through that time. And so I think that sort of embrace of possibility is my hope for 2021, but that maybe it wouldn't be chained by hardship in any way, but that maybe it would be more about embracing not only because we have to, but because we want to, and to see sort of how good news might unfold in some new and fresh ways. Is something that I'm really excited about and looking forward to. And yeah, my goodness, I never, every Sunday morning when we wrap up worship, and Saturday night too, whether that's in our sanctuary, in Doe Hall, wherever we may be, I get to usually stand at the door and have the handshake line and the hug line and all of that sort of thing. And I'm kind of ready to have that again. That's been something our digital worship hasn't provided that I would love to be able to resume. Well, hey, I want to be able to thank our entire Healthy Church team for all of your hard work. This is a totally voluntary thing. I can remember reaching out to each of you again several months ago, and kind of with this proposal of, hey, the Virginia conference is requiring us to put together this team that has to have a trustee and a medical expert and a legal expert and a hospitality greeter person and anybody else you'd want to have. And I was pretty nervous about who's going to want to get in on this. And all of you have been so faithful to this work. So on behalf of our whole congregation, I want to say thank you for your hard work and your continued hard work as we lead into 2021. So thank you to our whole church that's watched this video. We appreciate you. If you have any questions, concerns, or comments for our Healthy Church team, don't hesitate to send an email to hct@herndonumc.org. That actually goes to our entire team. We all see it, and we receive that feedback whenever it comes. So thank you for what you're doing. God bless you all, and we'll see you in 2021.